Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and about a few days ago I made a video about YouTube's insane comment bots, and this is actually a follow-up. YouTube actually did respond to this entire situation. And I kind of wanted to talk about it because, things have kind of escalated a little bit, and it really feels that, this is not some boilerplate nonsense response. Okay, I've been on YouTube for a long time, and, very rarely do you get like specialized correspondence, right? Very rarely do you get like the contact from YouTube's team that isn't either like your video's been demonetized or your video's been hit with an age restriction. No, I ended up getting this important message from YouTube, their partner support. And they reached out to me on behalf of the community outreach team, okay? And they actually brought up that video, the YouTube comment bots are posting CP. Now, inside that, they also said that the video that I made got age restricted. And if you ever want to know what an age restriction does to a video, if the video is doing really well, as soon as you get age restricted, woo, gets hit right in the algorithm, doesn't exist, it effectively is smited. Now, I think the cynical part of me could probably sit here and say, YouTube shut down any criticism. Ooh, they're hiding stuff. Now, I get it. YouTube videos get age restricted, I guess, and, I've kind of learned to accept them. Again, it just comes with the territory. Like I said, this isn't a job of mine, so, whether the video does really well, which that video really did, it got about 500,000 views before it ended up getting age restricted, but let's say that it hadn't, I think it did its job, right? It raised enough awareness for people to not think that this was some under-the-rug joke. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, there's a problem with YouTube comment sections right now where as soon as a video gets uploaded, one of the top things that you'll see, like immediately, no matter who you really are, it feels like the first 1 to 200 comments that show up on a video are entirely posted by spam, by bots. And normally, I wouldn't make a video on this if the bots were just goofy and jokey, because sometimes you'll come into a video and it's like, oh my god, they'll post some stupid chain letter nonsense that you can laugh at, or they can just say, oh, this guy sucks, I'm better, yada 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 yada. But in the last, I would say a year almost, especially in the last few months, it feels like this entire situation is ramped up to an insane degree. Because a lot of the profiles and a lot of the communities that are now sharing this kind of stuff, it's not that they're, posting, slightly racist things or anything of that nature in the comment section. It's that sometimes you go to their profile pictures and it goes to Discord servers or off-platform links that take you to sites that are actually where some really illegal stuff happens. And it was worth making a video on because honestly, it's better to call this out now than have like some mainstream news service call this out down the road and effectively, put YouTube in a really, really rough spot, okay? It's better that the platform self-polices rather than, they don't do a thing and then eventually it becomes a big deal, down the road when, again, someone picks it up that's outside the scope of YouTube. And generally speaking, you should be speaking up and reporting about this stuff as much as you can, because letting it just sweep under the rug is never healthy. It never really addresses the problem. Now, when I made that video, one thing that I have to kind of clarify is, obviously, even somebody on a Reddit came in and was like, are you doing anything illegal by going down these rabbit holes? And I have to just straight up say, in my entire career on YouTube, I have never, even accidentally come across, illegal material on the internet. Generally speaking, what you do is anytime you find something like, for instance, let's say that you're on, your search engine and this Wikipedia page for the word white, right? If you feel that this link contains something illegal, it's not impossible for you to copy that link address and immediately paste it into the FBI cyber tips tool or the relevant authority, okay? Generally speaking, you don't have to view anything illegal to report it. In fact, it's better you don't do that because you don't want to be, consuming any of this kind of content. You don't want to be saving it to your computer, God forbid, just for the purposes of uploading it for a report tool. You can just provide relevant law enforcement agencies or even like YouTube just a link, which is precisely what I did with this letter that they sent me. So anyways, when YouTube responded, they said that protecting minors is of the utmost importance to us. Our specialists are carefully reviewing the claims in your video and taking action accordingly. To which obviously I also reach out and am in the midst of providing them as much information as I can about anything that I talked about in that video. And to which YouTube's like, yes, we get it. You're dedicated to keeping the platform safe, as I think everyone is. Now, to go back to the point, right? when you're covering stuff, you don't have to view anything illegal. Again, the whole concept is you just tell these people that this is the breadcrumb trail, this is where you go on to. Now, in that video about a few days ago that I made, I talked about some entities that I still will not name in this video because it doesn't really help naming anything. A lot of the evidence that I saw that came out of it was just a cursory glance, looking at, a lot of these platforms and looking at the kind of posts that they would make. And anytime that they would show a post, they would have like a title of the post and then, the author and so on and so forth, like a standard Zen 4.0 forum page, right? And if somebody in a forum thread says that, they're posting something illegal, you don't have to click into the thread and possibly see something wrong. You should just be able to report it at that point in really good faith. And looking more into the site's history, looking more into the people that were, looking into the platforms, the off-platform behavior, the off-platform sites that were linked to from these Discord servers and YouTube groups that were posting these comment bots, that off-platform site was also targeted by plenty of their hosters and constantly is a site that goes up and down just simply because of them not wanting to, I guess, remove any links to illegal material. It is generally one of the darker parts of the internet, and it's all done entirely in the clear web, right? It's one of the things, even with like dark web videos, like when I did dark web browsing pretty actively, there was a point where I just had to stop because, for me, finding interesting websites to show you was becoming an impossibility. And a lot of the places that I would source these websites from were link lists that would constantly be updated with new links that a search crawler on the dark web would find. Now, sometimes you'll come across an onion address, like for instance, this has library FY. Sometimes you'll come across a name of a girl, right? Like I've come across names of, I don't know, let's just use a fake one for the sake of privacy and everything. Sarah, right? Let's say you come across Sarah blank, 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 dot onion. There's a pretty good chance that clicking on it is going to send you to a website that's landing page consists of illegal material. And usually if you're on the deep web and you look at that link and look at its name, it's a pretty good chance that 99% of it, you should avoid clicking on it to begin with, right? That's a one example that I can give you. Illegal content does exist on the deep web, and for the longest time I have admitted to not browsing the deep web for weekly videos because sometimes all the content for that week or 2 weeks was really just cataloged to be illegal content. It's sort of the one thing, as this gains popularity and with the anonymity of it, people are going to be making web pages like this. This kind of content doesn't just exclusively exist on the deep web. You can find a lot of this content, unfortunately, on very common websites. You'll even be able to find it on Twitter, on Reddit, if left unmoderated. You'll be able to find it on Discord. You'll be able to find it on any social media network that allows random people to upload all the time, okay? So the fact that these websites exist, this is a truly negative section of the deep web, but they get taken off really quick. In fact, I'm actually going to be of understanding that there are people that work exclusively against these individuals. So law enforcement can come in pretty quick to deal with this kind of stuff. And in some cases, it may be likely that even law enforcement is running this to entrap individuals and to actually get them to commit illegal crimes or at least come forward so that they can arrest them. Basically a fucking honeypot at this point, if that makes sense. Disgusting website where the most illegal material is being openly shared. Now again, I'm just going to say for the record, I haven't opened up any of their image threads, but being that they're so brazenly talking about it, I have no reason not to believe that illegal stuff is being shared. But the fact that it's being done so openly and, they're just trying to get people to jump onto it. And, it'd be one thing if this was in the darkest corner of the internet. But the fact that these people are pipelining individuals from YouTube and other large social networks, that needs to stop. Now, I think that, there's a lot of cynicism that people have, like, oh, YouTube's just doing this to cover their ass, or YouTube's, demonetizing or age restricting a video to punish. And I don't really see the world that way. I think for a lot of these social media platforms like YouTube, like Instagram, like Facebook, like Twitter, they're actually just way too big for their own good. There's just a lot of people every single day, every single hour posting out-of-pocket shit. There's a lot of good content posted onto YouTube. There's a lot of funny stuff posted on here. There's a lot of informative stuff. But for everybody posting an informative and funny video, there's always a bad person. There's always a bad egg or a bad apple that's uploading hours of bad content onto the site, okay? Content that is obviously violating of the terms of service, content that may actually even be illegal. And sometimes, YouTube, their automated filters don't pick that kind of stuff up, or it's in like the very corner of the internet. But the reason for, again, talking about this is because when you have the chatbot problem, or not the chatbot problem, the comment bot problem, where, again, it's people immediately jumping into the most popular videos or a trending video on YouTube and trying to guide, anybody off platform, whether it be through a link in their profile pages or a link sneakily, placed into a comment bot, whether they use, specific Unicode style attacks to circumvent YouTube's automated AI like checking. These are all things that, as soon as they're happening, like in a popular comment section, and the friction of accessing illegal stuff has basically been reduced down to a few clicks, that's when it's actually really, really scary. And ultimately, I'm glad that YouTube's kind of at least taken it a little bit seriously. They've actually responded to this. And, I will always do my part to assist YouTube as best as I can. Again, I always want to say, when you're investigating this kind of stuff, you never want to go too deep into the rabbit hole. You just want to talk about the stuff from a, logical perspective. You want to report any link you can, report the names of any groups you can to law enforcement agencies, or specifically the platform like YouTube in this instance where you see it being offended. Because generally speaking, you don't want to ruin an investigation. You don't want to be the internet vigilante that ultimately ruins the entire case down the road for when these people eventually do get the feds showing up at their door to stop them. There's one thing that I've always kind of talked about. I brought this up years ago, but one of the interesting tools that you can use right now is actually this one Reddit place called r/traceanobject. And a great way to end this video off is basically showing you that there are entire communities you can join where, again, law enforcement agencies post these case files and images or hashes from actual cases they're investigating. So they'll post things like, can you guys identify these logos on t-shirts? And again, they might be hard to tell, but it's an entire community who sits down, basically analyzes everything they can in truly autistic internet Redditor mystery mode. And once they are able to identify what these things are, law enforcement agencies effectively have leads to go off of. And if they have a legitimate lead, it's far more helpful than you trying to go into the weeds yourself and being the internet assist or internet vigilante. Which is one of the reasons why I guess making these kind of videos, or at least talking about this, is super duper important, at least to me. Because ultimately, I think the internet is filled with a lot of bad shit. And I think there's a lot of bad stuff now just openly happening. It used to be 5-6 years ago, you would kind of have to go into the very dregs of the internet society to find some really bad stuff. But the fact that I think that there's entire communities that have gotten really brazen with this, communities that are so in the wrong that even some of the most, I guess you could say, rough communities on the internet like 4chan or any of these groups, when they consider you to be a bad apple, you really are kind of a bad fucking apple. You know what I mean? You really are probably one of the worst people out there. But yeah, I think it was worth, it's good to see YouTube kind of respond to it, to take it a little bit seriously. And I'll take as many age restrictions as I guess I'm going to be handed on a silver platter, if it means that, and I hope, a few months down the road, this level of insanely illegal, comment bots on YouTube eventually, face the axe. If YouTube can see this problem, a year from now and adjust their tools accordingly to stop this, I think I can consider that shit to be the biggest win, one of the biggest wins that I've ever seen on my YouTube channel career at all, okay? Because ultimately, look, I can handle a lot of stupid comment bots. I can handle, chain mails. I can handle even a little bit of racism towards me on this site. That to me is just part of being on the internet. I can handle a little bit of raunchiness. But when I see the bots, okay, when I see a concerted effort being organized from people that are willingly just spreading some of the most illegal stuff around, I think at that point, not just as a creator, but I think as just somebody that's an internet citizen, an internet person, probably should be speaking up against it. And it should definitely not be happening on a tier 1 site like YouTube, where it is probably, I think, one of the most visited websites in the world. And if it's not, it's the second visited website right after Google. Insane stuff. But I wanted to talk about it, give you a little update. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and I'm out.